Khazanah Nasional says it will no longer be the sole shareholder of Malaysian Aviation Group post-debt restructuring. This comes after some of MAG's creditors have opted for debt-to-equity conversion. However, according to Khazanah MD Datuk Syariah Rizal Ridzuan, the dilution when it happens will be minor and it will remain MAG's largest shareholder going forward. On potential new investors, Syariah viewed the timing as not being favourable given the depressed market and consequentially prices. He points out that any recent aviation deals are either fire sales or insolvency proceedings. Thus, any discussion concerning a sensible plan to bring in new investors will only probably occur after a recovery, which he thinks won't really take place until 2023 or 2022 at the earliest. Chronically loss-making MAG recently received the approval of its creditors to restructure its balance sheet with its 15 billion ringgit in liabilities. Syariah says that while it will be tough, at least for now, Malaysia Airlines has the right cost structure and balance sheet to eventually come out better. Meanwhile, Khazanah saw its 2020 profit from operations fall 61% to 2.9 billion from 7.4 billion a year earlier against the backdrop of economic wreckage brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the profit drop, Khazanah still declared a dividend of 2 billion ringgit to the government. The sovereign fund's financial position remains strong, with debt reduced by 6% to 43.1 billion ringgit. Bank Negara maintained its OPI at 1.75% as it expects Malaysia's economic growth to improve, although downside risks remain. The central bank said in a statement that the global economic recovery, while uneven, is gaining momentum. For Malaysia, BNM says the latest indicators point to improvement in external demand and continued consumer spending. While the reimposition of containment measures will affect growth in the first quarter, the impact is expected to be less severe than that experienced in the second quarter of 2020. Going forward, growth is projected to improve from the second quarter onwards, driven by recovery in global demand and increased public and private sector expenditure. The rollout of the domestic COVID-19 vaccine program will also lift sentiment and economic activities. However, this outlook still remains subject to downside risks, stemming mainly from ongoing uncertainties related to the current pandemic. Headline inflation in 2021 is projected to average higher, primarily due to an increase in global oil prices. BNM also highlighted that it considers the monetary policy stance to be appropriate and accommodative, but that its position going forward remains subject to new data. Negara Nasional's subsidiary will buy a 39% stake in a 21.6 megawatt solar power collective in Vietnam from Singapore's Sunset Group. The project comprises 5 rooftop solar power plants. The deal allows TNB to establish a local presence in Vietnam and expand into its rapidly growing renewable energy and utility market. President and CEO Datuk Baharin Din says the acquisition is another step forward in TNB's ambition to grow its RE and utility businesses in Southeast Asia. TNB aims to grow its RE portfolio to 8,300 megawatts by 2025. However, TNB did not disclose the price in its BOS filing. Once the deal is complete, Sunset will hold 51%, while existing shareholder Sun Times Energy Joint Stock will continue to hold a 10% equity interest. The 5 plants are under 20-year power purchase agreements with state-owned utility company Vietnam Electricity to supply clean energy to the national grid. PPB Group is hoping that its film exhibition and distribution segment will break even for FY21. Golden Screen Cinema CEO Koh Mei Lee says that a return to profitability is hard to predict because of the rollout of new films. Many Hollywood movies had pushed their 2020 slate to this year because of the pandemic. She explains that recovery is expected in the third and fourth quarter with hopes of breaking even this year. However, meaningful recovery will come in 2022. revenue. When asked if the segment will be impacted short-term by the lack of film production due to COVID-19, Koh says that its unit, GSC Movies Distribution and Film Co-producing Arm, has 5 titles ready for release. When asked about the acquisition price of assets from the MBO cinema chain, PPB MD Lim Soon Huat says this could not be disclosed due to confidentiality agreements. When asked how long it would take to recoup the investment, Koh says it will be significantly shorter than if building a brand new cinema. She adds that with the global vaccine rollouts, the film industry on a whole is on the cusp of recovery, with places like China exhibiting pent-up demand. GSC currently operates 343 screens in Malaysia and 108 screens in Vietnam. Senior Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob says that the National Security Council is currently discussing if travel between green zones in different states should be permitted. He says that several factors need to be considered, including whether the travellers will traverse a red or yellow zone to get to their destination. Sabri says hypothetically, if someone from Putrajaya is heading to Malacca, both of which are green zones, they would have to pass through Negeri Sembilan, which is currently under CMCO. He adds that monitoring travellers will also prove a complex affair, as authorities would have to be certain of their start and stop points.